Nice to see all of you, some with mask, some without mask. So a big warm welcome to all of you. And I'm so happy to see you at 2:30, 3 o'clock, coming out of your houses to listen to our speaker today. So respected Vice Chancellor, Geshe, Dorji, Damdul, and Dr. Anita Dudhane, on behalf of the Visiting Research Professors Program of Goa University and the Foundation of Universal Responsibility of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and on behalf of our Vice Chancellor and Professor H.P. Menon and the Registrar Professor Natkarni, I welcome our speaker, Geshe Dorji Damdul, who is the visiting professor under the Dalai Lama Chair in Nalanda Studies. He's presently the director of Tibet House Cultural Center, New Delhi. We have 72 registrations, and we have a live streaming also. So just to inform you that the live streaming, which is for today, won't be the same link for tomorrow. So there's going to be a change in the link, which we are going to put on the website. So for tomorrow's lecture, you have a different link. So before I forget, I thought I would announce. We have Dr. Anita Dudhane, who's coordinating the lectures. She's a physician with a specialization in allergies. So any of you who have allergies, you're welcome to go to a clinic in Miramar. She lives in Goa, and she had her initial training in medical sciences here. And afterwards, she did her postgraduate studies in New York Medical College. And she's always involved in any activity with the Dalai Lama in Goa. And she also has a lot of projects in voluntary health associations of Goa, which bring health to rural communities. So welcome, Anita, for this function. And just to give you an introduction of Geshe Dorji Damdul. So he joined the Institute of Buddhist Dialects in 1988 in Dharamshala, and he went on to gain his degree in 2002 from Drempung Losengin Monastic University. He then joined the Gyudmed Tantric College for Tantric Studies. In 2003, he was recommended by the Office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and he studied English language at the Cambridge University, England in UK. And he's appointed as the translator to His Holiness the Dalai Lama since 2005. And he also translates texts like the Arya Nagarjuna Mulam Aditya Mika Karika, which means the fundamental wisdom of the middle way, Acharya Shantideva's Bodhikaryavatara, the wisdom chapter. Geshe-la has also co-authored scientific, philosophical, Buddhist, and secular books with his prominent professors in UK and USA, as well as His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Since 2011, Geshe-la has served as the director of Tibet House Cultural Center, New Delhi, where he gives weekly teachings in Buddhist philosophy, psychology, logic, and practice. He has also lectured at the University of Delhi and presented papers for national and international conferences held in Delhi and Mumbai, and is presently writing 2 books, Journey to the Paradox of the Brain and Mind, and the second one is What Constitutes the Ultimate Reality? The Effects of Understanding the Ultimate Reality. Geshe-la's passion is to help students gain deep understanding of the Nalanda tradition of Buddhist philosophy and imbue that knowledge with the heart of bodhicitta so that practitioners can transform their own continuum into the path of enlightenment. Geshe-la's knowledge of science and interaction with world-renowned physicists give him the unique ability to teach Buddhist philosophy with a modern twist that many of his non-Tibetan students appreciate. So a big welcome to Geshe-la here. I think all of us should give him a big clap and welcome him. And before we start, I request the Vice Chancellor to, with Geshe-la and Anita, to light the lamp to inaugurate the lecture series. Thank you. So now I request our Vice Chancellor to say a few words to welcome Geshe. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Honorable Geshe, Dorji, Damdul, Madam Savita, Madam Anita, all my colleagues and friends who assembled here. In fact, this is a very happy occasion because after 2 years of pandemic, at least I could see some of you are, sitting here, assembled here and listening to this. As you know that VRPP is a flagship program of our university with the aim of lifelong learning or the education for all, which actually crosses the boundary of university, and then we have around 18, right? 18 VRPP chairs. 18? No, we have 7 + 2. 9, okay. 9 out of that 2 are government, okay, 6 are government approved and remaining are all private. And this is one of those which has lots of significance in the sense that when you see or when you look back the 2 years what we had undergone, there were many negative thoughts. In fact, I myself had a lot of difficulty to console some of my relatives, across. I get phone calls and then the images come to the TV was very disturbing. And once you have, one of the worst enemy of mankind is your own thought. That multiplies and then it goes beyond a limit that leads to sleepless nights, and finally you will land in your hospital where you will have to undergo many medicines, etc. So this is, in fact, I have gone through one of the medical bulletin which says that meditation is one of the medicines as far as good living is concerned. And therefore, with lots of thought process, Goa University had come out with this lecture, and I don't want to say so much about this. Rather, I only say that let us try to understand the positive aspects of this meditation, how we can control our mind. In fact, though we have negative and positive, in fact, many of us, many human being has a tendency to be attracted to his negative thoughts rather than positive thoughts. So how to have a positive thought, so that how to have a, the fruitful life, how to have a good sleep, etc. Hopefully we will come to know from the coming 4 or 5 days time. And we have a very good, the expert for that. He has been trained in, I realize that in Tantric College of Tantric Studies, in government Tantric College. So he has lots of experience, and probably he also has lots of, the interaction with the many people, and especially after this COVID pandemic, etc. So let us listen to him. And with these few words, I welcome Mr. Geshe, Honorable Geshe, I would say, for this function. And this is something which would certainly help, the human across the age bar, from students for, across the old age as well as the young age also would be helpful to this. So with these few words, I thank you very much for accepting our invitation and welcome you here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. So we know Tagore's poem, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. So we know that when our mind is very clean, we can hold up our head high. So Geshe is going to teach us how to keep a clear mind and remove all the bad thoughts from our heads, okay, so that we can hold our head high always. So I welcome Geshe now to deliver his lecture for today. Welcome, Geshe.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Menenji, let me first honor you with the book. This is a very important book, the book on science and philosophy, which I'm going to explain about it a little later. Honor the Vice Chancellor with this book. Indeed, it is a great honor for me to be here with all of you here. And as Dr. Savideji explained, Goa University and Foundation for Universal Responsibility jointly organized this program under the Dalai Lama chair. And yes, it has been many years that the I've been in contact with Dr. the Dorji, and very dynamic, as Dr. Savitaji very clearly indicated, that she's involved with many things. And I'm not too sure how many of you were during the era when in the schools you have to learn how to write telegraph writing. Raise hands. No one. Yes, not shorthand, telegraph writing, which means that you have to use the economy of words. Telegraph writing. So which means the younger ones, okay, why I'm saying this is that it has become obsolete now. So therefore, it is already taken out from the syllabus. Why? Because it's totally irrelevant. So we should not forget that all these programs, like academic, particularly the academic programs, should not become dry academic programs. They should have some relevance to our day-to-day life, for yourself, for your family, for the nation, for the world. This is so important. And also that because that you see me in a Buddhist monk's robe, you may think that he's going to talk about spirituality. So this is where we need to come out of box. The point is that of course, some people, they can be very fundamentalist and just try to promote the ism. This is not the idea. The idea is how to promote the humanity, how to promote the harmony amongst ourselves. Oh, by the way, Tenzipia is up there. Yeah, came all the way from Delhi. Okay, and Sharmila there? Sharmila? Not here yet. Okay. This little digression. So the next few days talk, or the lecture, whatever you may call it, the idea is, let us be very objective in our approach. And meanwhile, let us start from the scratch. Don't presuppose anything. So, where I try to explain, I'll try my best to make things simple and see how much to relate this to our day-to-day life. In your life, your family, and to the place where you work, and so forth. And meanwhile, just see that once in a while, I may interact with you, although I may not be able to give chance to everyone to give answers. But what I expect is that each one of you to at least mentally give your answer, so that you take part in this and then see how to make the most of our being together here. We are talking about the mental health. And for the mental health, say sometimes when you talk about mental health, when you talk about compassion and so forth, people take it very lightly. So it's not because that the mental health, compassion, these topics are more soft, not because of that, simply the people tend to demarcate between the two things psychologically. One is academic, which is very rigorous, and the other one is more the soft, the studies. So a good study is where there is a tremendous rigor in your academic pursuit. Meanwhile, there's the greatest of the relevance to our day-to-day life. So UNO, when you speak about UNO, yes, you will take it as very seriously, plus that it has great relevance to our day-to-day life. So UNO talks about Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. And so the 17 of them were indicated, 17, and particularly the number 3 is about the good health and well-being. So this is considered so important. Whereas in the academic pursuit, oftentimes people see the well-being is something, this is more personal, but in the academic area, this is something different. No, but the point is that the humanity should thrive, and we should work together, that you're happier, your family is happier, and the whole world is happier. And that too, that the civilization should make sense, that people should become more civil, people should become more sensible, and where the education becomes more sophisticated, more developed, and likewise your heart to embrace others with sophistication, with the intricacies that should happen. So we talk about the well-being. Thank you. And at times, even if it becomes a little technical, I'll try my best to make things simple. Say WHO and how it defines well-being. It says a state of a state of complete physical, mental, and okay, so we rush through this part. A state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, which means that there should be mental ease. It's not just the lack of disease, that you're free from disease, infirmity, that this is well-being. Well-being should be a very holistic understanding, where your mind should be at ease. And there are these different points indicated that there are many, there are many different mental disorders with different presentations. They are generally categorized by a combination of abnormal thoughts, perceptions, emotions, behavior, and relationships with others. Mental disorders include depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, other psychosis, dementia, and developmental disorders, including autism. In fact, this is about the mental ill health. Meanwhile, I like to also indicate that for many of us, the reality is about the pains that we feel, the pain, for example, due to domestic violence, the pains we feel, and due to the loss of near and dear ones, the pains that we feel, particularly during the COVID-19, we lost many people. In fact, I remember that one of my very close friends in Pune, in North Pune, in Mumbai, during the first wave, I lost him. He passed away. Extremely, extremely sad. And likewise, many friends, and people, I'm sure, each one of you have your near and dear ones pass away. So the pains that you feel,
Is there a way to get out of these pains? Likewise for the younger ones, these hunting for career, hunting for jobs, and so forth. Again, it is mixed with so much of pain. Is there a way out to tackle these pains? This is the question. So, this is what I like to say, like create the blueprint of the few days talk on the basis of what Albert Einstein said. So here we see that the first one, Albert Einstein with Rabindranath Tagore, both Nobel laureates, and the other one, Albert Einstein making his Nobel speech, where he said, this is a very important point which he said, and from this we'll get the picture, because Einstein, each one of us will see him as height of intellectual inquiry. And when I cite him, you may think that, oh, this is secular. So whereas if I cite anyone else, like Jesus Christ, or the Lord Mahavir, Buddha, or the Gita, you may think this is very religious. Okay, so let's see what Albert Einstein has to say. Before I read what he said, oh, it's too close to me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Better? Is it an echo? Or okay, the volume is too low or is high? Is low. Okay. Okay, can you hear me? Better now? Better? No? Okay, better? 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 Okay, thank you. So basically what Einstein said, we see that this is where the real giants, real wise people can see the harmony of the richness of the academic rigor and the relevance to our day-to-day life emotionally. So these two there's no contradiction there. Instead, these two should be seen as one. Albert Einstein, what he said, okay, is this better now? Good. So what he said was that in this world, all these chaos, problems are there, and what is that factor responsible for that? It is our optical delusion, meaning that the delusion within us to separate you and I, exclusivity. So this is what imprisons us within the mind of our own misconception. Because of this, the division is created, and naturally, your love and affection will encompass only a very small circle of your affection, and the rest you see as enemies, or the rest you see as threats. So how to tackle this? Einstein responded. It is by expanding the circle of compassion. If possible, embrace all the creatures. And many of you will say that, but this is not possible. Okay, so the point is that this is where my talk is going to be hovering around. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama, as the Dr. Savitaji introduced, that I had the honor of traveling with His Holiness for about like 6 years all over the world, listening to His Holiness's public addresses everywhere. And oftentimes, in his public addresses, at the end of the discourse, the talks, the lectures, one question is very common, that, and particularly these questions coming from the experts, medical experts, educationists, social workers, and so forth, that modern education, while it is meant to bring about greater happiness for the humanity, and it is already advanced to such a level of sophistication, but the humanity is going downturn. Where are we going wrong? This is the question which His Holiness is always been confronted by the experts during his lectures. So His Holiness, without second thought, his response is that it's all because of the limitation of our modern education. Modern education is designed to cater to the material development, particularly as remnants from the Industrial Revolution, where there was a tremendous emphasis on the material development. Whichever country develops materially, that can conquer the world. That was the time. So, I'm sure most of you know that Britishers, it is said that sun never sets in UK because it conquers the whole world. To the extreme east, to the extreme west, they're all conquered by the Britishers. So why? Because the Industrial Revolution. So there, the whole education is designed to bring about material development, and that part is missing. For example, let's say, even today, the modern education, this is simply the legacy of the education which we derive from the Industrial Revolution, from the Britishers, legacy of the Britishers. Today, in a school, even if that young girl or the young boy has the capacity to become the second Mahatma Gandhi, in the school, in the class, if he or she says 2 plus 3 equals 5-ish, fail. Whereas if you say 2 plus 3 equals 5, you pass. This is the education system we have. So His Holiness very clearly indicated that the modern education, by no means it is bad. It is not bad. But the only thing is that it has limitations. It is designed for material development. Now it must be supplemented by the development of the heart, education to educate the heart. That part is missing. It is for this reason that His Holiness put so much effort, more than promoting the Tibetan issue, more than promoting Buddhism. He works solely for promoting the universal ethics. Universal ethics to be included in the modern education system. So with this, in 2019, April, His Holiness finally launched on the international level the C-learning, social, emotional, ethical learning, which comes under the broad umbrella of universal ethics to be included in a modern education system. Luckily, that is now picking up in the various universities, colleges, schools, institutions. At the moment, it is being pioneered by the Emory University under the auspices and the blessings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So with this in mind, let us read what Albert Einstein said. A human being is a part of the whole by us a universe, a part limited in space, time and space. He or she experiences himself or herself, their thoughts and feeling as something separated from the rest, a kind of an optical delusion of his consciousness. So this is what is that? This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and affection. For a few persons nearest to us, our task, what should we do now? How to save the world, how to save yourself, how to save your children. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. So the question is whether or not we can widen our circle to encompass all the creatures, all the beings. This question. So this brings us to the thoughts presented by Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin, what did he say on this? This is a very important point. And oftentimes, while we tend to make this demarcation between the academic studies and our day-to-day life, but at the same time, unintentionally, subconsciously, we are all driven by the kind of the standard of the education that the particular country, particular nation has reached. Okay, so I just listed some of the mental disorders, and I'm sure many of you have nothing to do with these. But there are, if you look at down to number 9, number 10, sadness, anguish, and a pain, the agitation. These things are very common to all of us. Okay, now the question is whether or not there's a cure. So Albert Einstein encourages us to widen a circle to all the creatures, to all the beings, whether or not this is possible. So we see that I'm going to bring the two thoughts, one by Charles Darwin, 1809 through to 1882, Common Era, and then the Buddha, 500 BCE. So with this, what did Charles Darwin, what does he have to say? And then what the Buddha has to say. So when you do that, let us be as objective in our approach. Be very objective. For example, just as when I cited Einstein, we just psychologically we see him as very secular. So likewise, our approach should be very objective. Very objective. And the Charles Darwin, what is that about emotions? For example, when are you, at times when you go through very rough days of your life, how many of you had that experience in your life? Rough days meaning that, oh, I have difficulty with this person, that person, this person, that person, with my dad, with my mom, with my husband, with my wife, with my children. At times, you have problem with everyone. Raise hands. If you okay, yes. Not all together. Not all together. Sometimes it does happen because what happens is, I also had that experience because say when you have difficulty with your, let's say, with your friend, and then you go home and your mom says, "You'll have a cup of tea, my daughter, my son." What tea? Right? This is your reaction. Not because that you're angry towards your mom, simply expressing, venting your anger that the friction that you had with your friend, now venting it to your mom. And the mom feels unhappy, mom feels sad, and then mom retreats. You don't get the tea. And then what happened? My tea is not coming. And your father comes. There's no tea now. And father, what did I do? So we see that somehow there are times where you go through really very lonely the emotions, very difficult times. Okay, so what the Charles Darwin, what does he have to offer? So what he said is that, Charles Darwin's view, particularly it became very prominent when I was in America. When I was sent by the Office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama to work on his book with Professor Paul Ekman. Professor Paul Ekman, I'm not too sure how many of you are aware of Professor Paul Ekman. Raise hands. Okay. Professor Paul Ekman, he is a world-renowned psychologist. And in fact, just for information, that when I came to know that he was coming to India for going to have another interview with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, then I sent an invitation to come to Tibet House to give a talk. And then his assistant sent me a message that, please don't advertise. You know why? Please don't advertise. Because we already made a poster. Professor Paul Briggs is very popular. Many people can be attracted. And the assistant said, please don't advertise. I said, why? Because he is the one who is being hired by CIA. CIA, Intelligence Bureau of America, and American Intelligence, Association, whatever. And they hire him to identify the terrorists because he's expert. He's the pioneer in what is known as the microfacial expression reading. He just looks at your face, and through your microfacial expressions, he could figure out what's going in your mind. He could figure out whether you are a terrorist or not. So he's been hired because he become like a target of the terrorists. So the assistant advised me not to advertise him. So we changed his name, Professor David. And I said, name change. And many people, they wrote to me saying that, who is that professor? Because name change means there must be a reason. And so finally he came. And what is said is that so he talked a lot about emotions. And when he invited me there for about 5 days to work on the book, jointly written by His Holiness and Professor Paul Ekman, he was so kind. He entertained all the 5 evenings. One evening was with his the psychologist, the colleagues, and he asked me to introduce myself a little bit. And after this, then we talked about how the emotions can be transformed. And one lady psychologist raised her hand and said that we can't really change the emotions altogether. We can't, because, okay, how many of you have the background in biology? Raise hands. Okay, some of you are there. Yes. So what this lady said, lady psychologist said was that we cannot change the emotions altogether for the reason that these are evolutionary instincts like attachment, anger, jealousy, fear. These are the emotions which we inherited as the evolutionary gift. And without these emotions, we cannot possibly survive. And these are instincts, which means that it's not that I think of anger, then anger rises. It's just very instinctive. We cannot get rid of these. So this is Charles Darwin's evolutionary theory. So from that point of view, our agitation, our fear, and so forth, we cannot get rid of them altogether. So the reason that they give is that, for example, attachment is required in order for survival. Without attachment, you will not put effort to gather the conducive factors. Or without anger, you will not put effort to get rid of those things which are non-conducive to your existence. And without fear, you will not run away from the threats. And your life will be terminated. Say you are facing a tiger, lion. And if you don't have the fear, you will not run away. So you will die. The tiger will mull you up. So these are the instincts, and you cannot transform them. And yet, each one of us, we know that when the anger is there, what is it feeling like? How many of you are excited to be angry? Raise hands. Oh, yeah, not excited to be angry. Raise hands. Morning you get up, and oh, I'm too excited today, I'll be angry. No, no one. Because with the anger, the associated feeling is agitation. Nobody wants agitation. So in a way, what Albert Einstein is anticipating, that we need to embrace all the creatures with love and affection. According to Charles Darwin's evolutionary theory, this is not possible, because you're bound to have the people or the beings who are non-conducive to your survival, and for this, anger inevitably arises. So this says Charles Darwin's evolutionary theory, emotions as instincts through evolution. And what the Buddha has to say, this is so important. And I'm sure those of you who read the Buddha's biography, you will come to know that Buddha was a great revolutionary, because that he fought against the caste system. He fought against the gender discrimination. And he was very strongly advocating the equality of the gender, the equality of the caste, equality of the human beings. So what made him so confident? And some of you may think that, oh, he's an enlightened being. Some of you may think that, oh, he was a prince. So who will challenge him? But the reality is very different. Even as a prince, even as an enlightened being, at one point, that because he was against the caste system so strongly, and so strongly advocating the gender equality, that many factions rose against him, and he really had a tough time. Okay, so what made him extremely courageous to fight against inequalities, particularly gender inequality? What made him that? What gave him that courage? This question. So it is because we see here the seed of perfection within all sentient beings. So what he is convinced about is that whether you're male or female, so why the male in those days was considered as very important, and females are not as much respected. Why? Because in those days, the thought process was very outdated, extremely uncivilized, just reacting on the basis of the immediate the necessity. Immediate necessity, what is that? There's no brain development. There's no education. It was the might is the right, not the mind is the right in those days. And even today, we see the legacies of those, the outdated thoughts. So, what made this Prince Siddhartha become very courageous to fight against the gender inequality? So the reason was that he could see that just as the males in those days are considered as very important, he said that both male and female, both are equally very important. It's not that males are more important than the females. Again, what did he see? What did he see as something which is equal between these two genders? So he saw that there's a seed within each one of us, whether you're male or female, whether you're Buddhist or non-Buddhist, whether you're from this caste, that caste, we're all just equal in having the seed of perfection. Everybody has a seed of perfection. In the olden times, the prince, young prince, they're considered very important. Why? Because he was going to become the king. He was going to rule the kingdom. So the Buddha says everybody has the seed of perfection, which can rule the whole universe. Everybody has this seed. So with this, that what Albert Einstein said, that we must learn how to embrace our, expand our circle of compassion towards all the creatures. And the Buddha said, yes, it is possible, because everyone has the seed of perfection. This is very important. And as I said earlier, let us not follow blindly. And let us be very objective. And in the process of this talk, say just see that if it makes sense to you. If it doesn't make sense, feel free to raise hands. and the kind of interaction. This is so important. Find some form of learning should take place. Okay, and so what is this state of perfection? What is this state of perfection? And how do you know that each one of us, they have this state of perfection? Okay, by the way, in Goa, is there any running water? River? What is that? Swari River. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm just wondering, is it drinkable? Is it? Why not? Why not? Okay, polluted. Okay, so let's say today the river from the water from Swari River. So we see that it is polluted. It's not drinkable. And say if it is very hot, and I just get a glass full of this water from Swari River and give it to you, would you drink? You will not drink. Why? Because it is dirty. It is polluted. Okay. Now I subject the same water to purification process. Purification process such as reverse osmosis, ultrafiltration, and so forth, and it becomes so clean. Do you want to drink it? Yes, all the bottled water that we get from the shops, they have gone through this process. So we like to drink it. My next question is that this water, this clean water, which you like to drink now. Okay, this water, which you said you like to drink. This clean water came from where? From the dirty water or from Mount Kailash? From Mount Everest? From the same dirty water. So let's not forget it. So this dirty Swari river, from there, with some, say the practice, with some procedure, we see that the purity comes out. Let's not forget it. Now let me give you another example. Let's say that a brass statue of Jesus Christ. And you present me a brass statue of Jesus Christ. And I would say that I want a gold statue of Jesus Christ. Gold statue. So what you do is that you want to turn it into gold. So you remove the brass. As you remove the brass particles, what will happen? Whole statue will disappear. How many agree with me, raise hands? Good. Okay. So now, let's say these two examples. First, the water, the dirty water. However dirty the water is, when you remove the dirt, instead of the water disappearing, the water becomes very clean. Whereas in the case of the, the brass statue, when trying to make it gold, but remove the brass, instead of it becoming gold, the whole statue disappeared. The water did not disappear. Water became very clean. What's the difference? Anyone? 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 Just raise your hand. Yes. Okay. So with the dirty water, the impurity is external. And whereas the brass particles, they are the intrinsic quality of the statue. Okay, thank you. So in other words, what the gentleman is saying is that the water, however dirty the water is, all the dirts, the pollutants, they're all external. They're not internal. They are not the intrinsic quality of the water. So what is the intrinsic quality of the water? Remove the external quality, remove the external dirt, then the intrinsic quality will become manifest. What is that intrinsic quality? Which you are drinking, the clean water, the purity. The purity is the intrinsic quality of the water. However dirty the water is, the intrinsic quality of the water is very clean. So, our mind, I'm sure you will have many questions. This says, when I teach this, people, this is what we have been doing the last like 1 month. 1 month, that the questions come up, and I'm sure you have many questions. In fact, since that we have only like 4 or 5 sessions, 4 sessions, 5 sessions. Since we have only 5 sessions, therefore we cannot cover many points, but if you can, let's say, come up with your questions, particularly with what I said, then that suffices doing many more classes by responding to them and your questions. Okay, feel free to ask me questions by interrupting my talk. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm saying is that this water, however dirty the water is, the true nature of the water, the intrinsic nature of the water is very clean. That's for sure. It has nothing to do with the religiosity. It has nothing to do with the philosophy. It has nothing to do with anything. This is the nature of the water. So our mind, whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter. Whether you're male or female, say the mental dirt is one thing. Remove the mental dirt and the purity, it manifests. That purity, there's no difference between the male's purity and the female's purity. The purity of the mind is just the same. So because of this, that each one of us has the capacity to become the most refined being, the happiest person, the most beneficial person. Therefore, you are so precious. You have the seed of incredible preciousness. Whether you're male or female, there's no difference. It's for this reason that Buddha was totally against any form of inequalities, including gender inequality. Okay. So our mind is like that. There is some intrinsic purity there. Before the advent of the Buddha, before the advent of, say, the chronological speaking, before the advent of all the great teachers, including Abraham, say, Krishna, and so forth, that the nature of the mind, the true nature of the mind, the true nature of consciousness has been so clean, so pure. And some of you may be thinking, okay, he's talking about consciousness, mind, which is the very, very abstract, and it is nothing to do with objective approach. And this is where we're going to discuss more. Okay. So we're talking about the mind, that mental health, mental stress, sadness, anxiety, these are all mental states. So the way to see nowadays, in fact, that was, what is that? Infosys. That was in Pune. Pune, I was giving a talk in Pali department, and then there was one lady who was also attending the talk, and her husband happened to be the director of the Infosys in Pune. And she informed her husband to invite me to give a talk. And the husband was expecting, and of course the talk was on the mental health. And it was at the technical institution. And the husband thought that the people would not show interest in this, because the whole institute is about the software, hardware, and so forth. And he's invited. My wife is asking me to invite this on to talk on mental health. So what he did was that he organized the talk in just a space like this for about like 100 people. And he had to do it, not because that he would like to, because it's the dictate from the wife. So he was escorting me from where the car was parked to the place, and in between he was getting a phone call from the person who was organizing the space. I said that there are so many people, the space is too small. He couldn't believe. Then he asked, how many? minimum 500. So he gave the instruction to just switch the whole instant immediately from the small to the big one. So what I'm saying is that today we see that many people, they're going through mental problems, mental stress, anxiety, anguish. And I'm sure here they are, including myself. All of us, we have some form of the other, some mental problems. Yeah. So how to deal with these things? And if you are not, there must be your family members, your friends who are going through these difficulties. So there, in fact, this hall for 500 people is just jam-packed, and people were sitting on the aisle. And the director of the institute, Infosys, he said that I could not believe that people are interested to learn about the mental health. And yes, I agree with him. Because the moment I entered the Infosys, the atmosphere is very different from the atmosphere that I saw in Delhi University. And Goa University, I'm not too sure. Infosys and Delhi University, there's a stark contrast there. In Delhi University, the moment I entered, guess what will I see? Boys, girls with their hands together and slow movement. Infosys, nobody holding hands together. Everyone, there's like deadlines there. From the face, you could see that there's so much tension and stress. Everybody's moving like this so fast. This is the difference. Age-wise, much more the same. Delhi University students and the Infosys staff, age-wise, they're all very young. But this is the difference. So I think that in the Infosys, the boys and girls, they saw the ground reality. Life is not just a flower. Behind that, there's something else. Stress, anxiety. Okay, so with this, where is this experience? Stress, anxiety, and mental health. Where are these experiences? The experience on the mind, related to your mind. Your mind experiences. You call it consciousness, you call it mind, whatever. This is where you're experiencing it. And some of you may still think that, oh, this is so the abstract phenomenon. No. Don't think it that way. Just maintain a very open mind. Let us at least listen to, see what he has to say about mind. This is your experience. You have the mind. It's not about that I'm bringing mind from some institution and giving to mind. No. You have your own mind. Just see if you can discover that. Yes, there is we are talking about the map of the mind, how the mind works. And on that basis, that the mind is working on its own, and create tension, anxiety, stress, and so forth. You are unaware of. And in fact, for your information, once I was in a center to give a talk, and there was one young gentleman, and during the one-on-one meeting, he told me that I'm on antidepressants, and I felt very sympathetic. And I asked, if you don't mind to tell me what could be the reason. He said that, okay, this is very important. It's nothing to do with the religiosity. He said that my boss, I'm working in a corporate, and my boss has been very unfair. And he never gives me promotion. My junior somehow connected with him. They were all given promotion ahead of me. So this is what makes me go into depression, and I'm on antibiotics, in the antidepressants. I told him that stop the antidepressants. Now I know the reason. Antidepressants will not change the mind of your boss. Antidepressants will not change the mind of your boss. Your boss will continue to behave like this, and you will continue to have the depression, and the antidepressants, they are the extra poison in your body. So what you do is that, as long as you're in the job, in this particular job, okay, you rely on the antidepressants. But meanwhile, you must look for a new job, because antidepressants, they are really poisons. So where only there's acute necessity, there's no choice. Otherwise, always try to stay away from that. Try to get a new job where salary may be less, but your mind is happy. Go for this and stop the antidepressant. You don't have to rely on antidepressant. Okay, this is what I said. So in other words, what I'm saying is that amongst the youngsters, be in India, abroad, wherever, number of the people with depression, anxiety is just increasing. And how to deal with this? This is so important. This is so important. Okay, so for this, the people who are more realistic may understand, okay, what is mind? Map of mind. So all these things are happening on the level of mind. And what is mind? How does the mind operate? How does this mind create this problem? Anxiety, stress, and so forth. I want to know. And some of you may think that, oh, what is mind? It's just the brain. It's the neurons. Some of you may think like this. Okay, this is where this talk becomes very important. What is mind? Is it the neurons in the brain which you identified as mind? This question. Okay, so we talk about the subjective experience. Say, science and non-science. How do we demarcate in this? Study of the mind. Does it come under science or non-science? The study of mind. I would say that today, by today's standard and the norms, I would say that it would come most likely under non-science. Because science today, hardcore science today, is marked with some, say, the attributes, qualifications. One is that it should be quantifiable. Number two, that you should be able to measure it. Number three, that you should be able to reproduce the result. For example, with the mind, for example, say I practice a particular system, meditation and so forth. Then I feel that, oh, my depression goes away. I cannot reproduce that with you. It's my personal experience. And also that I cannot measure it. So you may measure the decrease in the stress hormones and so forth. But how can you say this is exactly what quantifies the mind? The mind is not really quantifiable. Okay, so from there, we see that there's the demarcation there. Meanwhile, let us not forget that when talk, I personally, and for your information, that when I was in school, particularly class 9, 10, 11, 12, for 4 years, I was just thinking of becoming a physicist. My main subjects, I was so fond of physics and mathematics. And particularly class 12, I was sitting for the board exam, and we were introduced to quantum mechanics. And my teacher very clearly said that quantum mechanics, don't worry, it will not come in your exam. It's just to introduce to you the quantum mechanics, and then in your college days, then this will be studied more detail. But this young boy was so interested in quantum mechanics. Whatever was introduced, I want to learn more. Early morning at 6 o'clock, I went to knock at the door of the physics teacher. And he must be still lying in the bed. And then he so kindly opened the door and wrapped himself up with a blanket and started teaching me quantum mechanics. So that was the right while the board exam was going on. Central Board of Secondary Education. Okay, I'm extremely fond of science, particularly physics. So what I'm saying is that simply because science is a very rigorous system, it does not mean that it explains everything. This is what I like you to be very objective. Science is a very rigorous system. And for information, I demarcated 3 things, 3 divisions of phenomena, things that exist in this universe. There are 3 kinds. One is evident phenomena, which science deals with. Number 2 is slightly obscure phenomena, which a part of which is what science deals with. Let's not forget it. for example, like quantum mechanics, relativity theory, and also the neuroscience. They're all, and for example, the bacteria, the study of bacteria in the salt, Goa salt. Right? So all these come under slightly obscure phenomena. They are not very obscure phenomena. We can eventually, through ways and means, we can identify them. But with the naked eyes, we cannot identify them. So this is known as the slight obscure phenomena. So given that science explains the first one so well, the second one partly, and then a part of which science does not touch. And a third one, very obscure phenomena. For example, how many of you know your birthday? Date of birth, raise hands. Raise hands, raise hands, don't feel shy. Okay. The lady here, you like to tell me your date, not the year. July 28. Okay. Are you sure you're born on this day? Are you sure you're born on this day? Are you sure? Okay. How do you know? Did you see yourself being born? Birth certificate. So you depend on the birth certificate. Right? How do you know that the birth certificate is 100% accurate? Perhaps the doctor must be a little intoxicated. Right? For example, some of my teachers, when I was in school, they were little, after the drink, when they teach, they write blackboard from the bottom, it goes up. Right? So like that, who knows? So in other words, you don't have any factual reasons to believe in a birthday. You have to believe in somebody. You have to believe in this certificate. You have to believe in what your mother says. You have to believe in the testimony of a reliable source. You're getting it? Whereas, let's say that COVID-19, we don't have to believe in it. We don't have to have a blind belief. The fact that somebody is tested positive, and then others start to have a headache, and then you go they check, you also tested positive. So there we see that something is being transmitted. That's for 100% sure. I don't have to believe in this. I don't have to believe in Dr. Savitaji that, there's something known as COVID. No, I couldn't see that. But I see that it's a very tiny one or big, this is not the point. There's a phenomenon there which really disturbs the people and can even kill many people. This is what I don't have to have a blind faith in this. But for your birthday, you don't have any, the evidence besides believing in a source. So that comes under what is known as very obscure phenomena. The first one is what is cognizable through your direct sense cognitive mind. Sense sources, sense consciousness. Whereas the second one can be done through reasons. Through reasons, for example, let's say if I see a smoke billowing from the other building, I could infer the presence of the fire there. This is through pure reasoning. Whereas my birthday, believing in the birthday, this is pure by believing in the testimony of a reliable source. That's it. So that is different. That falls under the third category. Now the modern science, if we are to expand the circle of its analysis, the scope of its analysis, then the modern science has to compromise its rigor. Modern science is a very rigorous system. But it doesn't mean that it explains everything. Let's not forget it. We should be very objective. For example, say quantum mechanics, physics is a very rigorous system. It cannot explain neuroscience. Let's not forget it. Neuroscience is a very rigorous system. It cannot explain physics. Let's not forget it. So therefore, science the scope of its analysis, inquiry is limited. And yet, the beauty of modern science is that there's a rigor there. And this is so precious. So, with this in mind, what is mind? It's not really touched by the neuroscience. Because the neuroscience, the moment it goes to expand the whole scope of to the mind, what we call it mind, it has to compromise the rigor. In the future, we never know, because there is oftentimes paradigm shift happening in science. Newtonian physics, from Newtonian physics, there's a paradigm shift to the quantum mechanics. There's such a the drastic shift happened. So likewise, from neuroscience, today what we call is neuroscience, which doesn't really include the mind. So we never know. At a certain point, then there can be the paradigm shift to incorporate the mind. Okay. So with this, now the mind, for the mind, say only if I show these pictures, then you will see that there's something there which is not really with the brain. There's something there which is the most important part of your life, my life, your children's life. The most important part is your mind. Your mind should be happy. The mental health is very important. Say when you go to join any institution, or as a soldier, or as whatever, as a sportsman or sportswoman, they check your mental health. Whether you're mentally sound. So what is that mind, mental? What is that? This says, I'm going to show some pictures. These will speak louder than what I say. Okay, let's say schools. You try to educate the children. And then you look at all the soldiers, and you see what is below the end. Say the soldier carrying the dead body of their own soldiers. It's so painful to see that. So painful. And you say the whole decision of the nation is taking place there in this parliamentarians. They take all these decisions. And look at this. So we go to the hospitals, AIMS hospital, and look at this, the surgery. We don't even want to look at this site. So there's something which you don't want to look at it. It's your mind. And look at the poor farmers, how they work. And so they work so hard, how much they earn. And the banks, what is being done, corruptions and so forth, all these things happen. And then some people, they earn a lot, some people, they earn so less. All the efforts and the digital world. And look, the COVID, say, the pain to see the loss of your near and dear ones. And look, it's so painful, very agonizing to see this. At times, I don't even want to look at these pictures. It's so painful. Just imagine the pain that people are going through. Where is this pain experience? Agitation experience, anxiety experience. Where? Which individual people they are so well aware of. The doctors they're not aware of. The psychiatrists they're not aware of. They can infer. But some can feel, some can empathize. Some good doctors can empathize. Otherwise, you are the one who are directly experiencing this. That is your mind. What the doctors can see, the neuroscientists can see, fMRI can see, CAT scan can see. That's your brain. And what you are feeling, which you cannot see. The brain is not what you are seeing. But you're experiencing something which the doctors cannot see. That is your mind. Look at this. Look at this. All this one family member consoling the other family member. So painful. It's all happening on your mental level. Let's not forget this. So sometimes when we become too intellectual, too dry, intellectually driven, then we talk about, mind is just a brain. Brain is just like a mechanical object. There's something, look at this. can you say that this is just a mechanical object? Say one family member consoling the other family member over the loss of near and dear ones. What is all these fires? These are all the cremations happening. And look, domestic violence is extremely painful. Again, so many people suffering. Would you say that it's just like the brain? There's something there on the mental level. And look at this war happening. It's human-made, man-made problems. Wars happening. Look at this. All these once beautiful buildings just smashed into just barren place. And all these soldiers, they're suffering. Their family members, they're suffering. Okay. And then there is today what we known as the mental health. NIMHANS, one of the most important mental health institutions in the nation. And all these mental health institutions. So what are they treating? They're mainly treating your mind while addressing the brain. So this is one thing that we need to keep in mind. So with this in mind, next question, what is mind? Yes, we can feel it. That yes, there's so much pain which I could see, which the doctors cannot see. Which I could feel, which the doctors cannot feel. And because of this, my family members are worried about me and so forth. So what is this mind? This question. So one time, I was in a very prestigious institution. And the HOD of the department is a Buddhist studies department. I asked him that you must see the possibility for some research on the mind. And what he said was that mind is a very abstract phenomenon. You cannot really see what mind is. And I said, no. Okay, this is what I'm going to share with you here. What is mind? Once you get a little bit of understanding what mind is, then on that basis, I'll see if you can tackle your mind yourself. Train your mind yourself that agitation, anxiety, and so forth can be brought to the calmness, and likewise you can help others to do the same. So what is mind? Okay, I'm going to give you one exercise. Okay, just think of a moment. Just think of a moment when you were most happy, genuinely happy. Okay, let's say when you were aged, if that was the case, that when you were aged 4 or 5, when your mother holds you in her arms, and there's tremendous peace, happiness between you. Just feel that. Feel that. Don't speak. Just feel that. Okay. Now imagine that I hand over you to, say, a neuroscientist. And the neuroscientist, I asked the neuroscientist what's going in her mind. And the neuroscientist will, at the most, he or she can put in a brain scan. With a brain scan, he can see your brain waves. He can see the synaptic connection. He can see the neurotransmitters being transmitted from this moment, the nerve to the neuron to the other. Okay. So the point is, okay, neuroscientists, they are seeing your brain. They are seeing the synaptic connection. They are seeing the transmission of the neurotransmitters. But they don't know what's going in your mind. Number one. Number two, that you have the first-hand experience of what you're feeling. Yet you have no clue what's going in your brain. How many agree with me? Raise hands. Raise hands if you agree. Okay. My question is, say you're thinking of yourself back in time when you were age 5, age 4, when your mother is holding you in her arms with so much love and affection, and you could feel the love and affection there. And I ask you not to talk, simply feel that. And I hand you over to the neuroscientist. and I asked the neuroscientist, what's going in the mind of this girl or this boy? A neuroscientist cannot see what's going in your mind. So neuroscientist put it in the brain scan. Putting in the brain scan, neuroscientists can see your brain waves, can see the neurotransmitters being transmitted from one neuron to the other. This is at best what they can see. They cannot see what you're thinking. Now, on the other hand, you have the first-hand experience of what you're thinking. You know what exactly you are thinking. But you have no clue what is happening in your brain. How many agree with neuroscience? Okay. So, what the experience, the first-hand experience that you had, which neuroscientists cannot see, is your mind, which a neuroscientist can see, which you have no clue. That is your brain. Let's not forget it. And for this, to know this concept well, you must read the book, The Future of Mind. The Future of Mind by a very renowned physicist, Michio Kaku, Professor Michio Kaku. He's a physicist, he's not a neuroscientist. But I'm so amazed by this book, The Future of Mind. Why? Because he's a very famous physicist, that he could get all the data, the research, the outcomes from the neuroscientists easily. So he indicated this concept, how the neuroscientists, they are creating dictionaries of the emotions. Why they have to create the dictionaries? Because they cannot see the emotions directly. They cannot see the emotions directly, so therefore they're looking for the correlates. Okay, what are you thinking? Oh, I'm thinking of my mother cuddling me. Oh, this part of the brain is, so which means this part of the brain is related to your the emotional affection towards your mother. So this is how the neuroscientists are creating dictionaries, which means that neuroscientists, they cannot see your mind. You cannot see your brain. Okay. So what is mind? How many of you ever have thought about this? What is mind? What is mind like? How many of you have thought about it in your life at least once or twice? What is mind? Raise hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, many of you. What exactly is mind? Yes, the mind is the most important thing in this universe with respect to you. Yet, because it is not visible, so sometimes we just ignore this. Okay, so what is mind? This is the question. Okay, the mind is defined. So when I say defined, don't take it blindly. I explain this, and you see if it makes sense to you. If it makes sense, fine. If it doesn't make sense, feel free to ask me. That is so important. What is mind? So because we talk about the mental health, you need to know what the mind is. And particularly, if you want to become your own therapist, mental therapist, and if you want to become a therapist for others, then the best, you have to know what mind is. So it's nothing to do with the religiosity. It's with you right now. And that you must be convinced. Don't follow blindly. What is mind? This question. The mind is defined as a clear and knowing agent. Clear, very clear, and knowing agent. And see, as I explained this today, after the talk, you go back home and you can think more Two or more questions come to you, bring them tomorrow. This is so important. Mind is defined as clear knowing. What does it mean by clear and knowing? Or if you want to make it very precise, clear and knowing agent. Clear knowing agent. What is clear? Okay, let's say that let's say a mirror. A mirror. When the mirror is very foggy, you take a shower, and the mirror becomes very foggy, and your reflection does not, you cannot see your face in the mirror. How many of you know that? Raise your hands. I don't have to explain it. Okay, you have the experience, right? But keep in mind that there's a Japanese technology with the fogless mirror, right? If you have this problem, you can buy one made in Japan. When I was in Japan, I was so awestruck to say, wow, I took the shower with so much vapor, but the mirror is as clear as before, not at all becoming foggy, right? Okay. When it's foggy, there's no reflection happening. When the reflection happens, clearer the reflection means the surface of the mirror is clearer. How many agree with me? Raise hands. Good. Okay. Which means, okay, this is one example. Another example is on the water body. Okay, here in Goa, everywhere there's water there. Right? Everywhere you will see the ocean there. On the ocean. Say, at times, how many of you have seen the reflection moon in the ocean? Raise hands. All of you. Okay. Just imagine if there's a lake where very dirty lake with leaves and all the dirt just covering the surface of the water body. Do you expect a reflection moon happening there? No reflection. Because the water is not clear. Water body is not clear. Only if the object, the surface of the object is clear, we can expect reflections happening. Now, close eyes. Close the eyes and think of a beautiful rose flower. Think of a beautiful rose flower. Okay, now open your eyes and tell me. What came to your mind? Just raise hand, somebody. What came to your mind? Okay, yes. Red rose. Okay. Okay, rose came to your mind. How many of your mind the rose came? Raise hands. Wow, that's amazing. Rose came. Who planted this rose? Do you agree with me? It's not a rose, it's a reflection of a rose. Do you agree with me? It's not a rose, right? It's a reflection of the rose. What came to your mind is the reflection of the rose. Because there's a reflection of the rose, the reflection means there must be a surface on which the reflection occurred. What is that surface? It's not a material surface. Because this reflection is not a physical reflection, it's a mental reflection. Only you can see, not others can see. Okay, how many of you would say that, yes, that's very true. This reflection of the rose that came to my mind is only what I can see, not anybody else. Raise hands. Thank you. Okay, which means that this reflection of the rose, because there is a reflection, and this undeniable fact, it's not that I'm creating a story. This undeniable fact, and because this is a reflection, it must happen on a surface. Because that this reflection is not an external reflection, it's the internal reflection, there must be internal surface. What's that surface on which the reflection occurred? That is known as the surface of your mind. Internal phenomena. And unless this surface is very clear, the reflection cannot happen. Because the reflection happens so clear, particularly when you train. Reflection can be as vivid as what your eyes can see. Sometimes it can be more vivid than what your eyes can see. Okay, how many of you had that experience? Sometimes when you have the lucid dream, where objects that you see in your dream, they are far clearer than what your eyes can see in your waking state. How many of you had that experience? Raise hands. One. Oh, many of you. Thank you. Yes, it did happen to me also. Sometimes your eyes, I think that your eyes are the ultimate to see things vividly. No, sometimes in a dream, they can be more vivid than what the eyes can see. Okay, so that is the clear element of the mind. The next one is knowing, the cognition. Mirror, very clear mirror. Reflection can happen, but the mirror does not have the ability to know that the reflection has happened. How many agree with mirror's hand? Although the mirror, a very clear mirror, reflection can happen, but the mirror doesn't know that the reflection has occurred on it. How many of you agree with mirror's hand? Very good. Okay. Now, you close the eyes and think about the same flower. Think of the same flower. Okay. Thank you. Now my question to you is that the image of the flower, did it come to your mind? Answer is yes. Not only that the image is formed, you are aware that the image is formed. How many are aware that the image was formed on your mind? Raise your hand. Perfect. So that surface, that agent, is the one where not only the reflections happened, which means the clarity, also that it knows that the reflection has happened. So this is the agent which is not tangible, not visible, but it's the agent which is clear and which is the cognitive element, the element of the knowledge. So this is your mind. And this is what the neuroscientists cannot see present within you. And you alone are the witness to this. So one time there was now he is a vice chancellor of some university. So he organized a program. He organized a program on, say, the topic conference on neuroscience and psychology. And I made this distinction of what this mind is like. And particularly the neuroscientists, they were extremely happy because this is what impresses them so much as to what is brain, what is mind. So they could not really make this demarcation. Okay, so with this, we talk about the map of the mind. The mind. So we have to acknowledge that, for example, you are stressed. Sometimes even the stress, anxiety, anguish, and so forth, they are related to your, say, sometimes we do feel that there's a correlation between your physiology and the mental functions. You see the correlation. Sometimes you can feel so heavy depression. Your mind can feel so heavy, as though like something very heavy is there at the core and it's just dragging you down. How many of you had that experience? Raise hands. Yes. Most likely all of us also had this experience. Okay. We can see the correlation between the mental function and the physiology. We can see that. So with this, say we have to know that all these things, what we talk about, the mental functions, like say the anxiety, depression, agitation, and particularly the pain of losing near and dear ones. One example that I give is that so which is better, to have a very close family, the family where the family members are very close or not too close? Which is better? Raise your hands. Huh? Close. Okay, with the close, there's one problem. With the loss of the near and dear one, the pain is so aching. How many agree with me? Raise hands. Okay, I'll give you 3 options. One is, which you already have, very close, extreme close relationship with your family members, and with the loss, so much agonizing pain. This is one option. Second option is no close, no pain. Third option is very close but no pain. No pain at the loss of the near and dear one. Okay, just take your time and imagine that you are at that point where you have lost somebody who's so close to you. And what is that feeling? Extremely painful. And if that person who passed away were to see you in pain, the person will be in pain. You don't want this person to be in pain, and now you're creating pain on this person. You're creating pain on this person because of your feeling the pain. Okay. With this, take your time and tell me which of the three options you like the most. Okay, anybody else? Listen. Okay, here. First, second, third. Cannot decide. Over there. Third option. Okay, how many of you agree with the gentleman over there? Third option. Raise hands. So much, very close, extremely close, very affectionate, and yet at the loss of your near and dear one, that pain is not there. That pain is not there, but affection is not compromised. Affection is even more. If that is the case, which do you prefer? How many of you agree with the gentleman? The third one, raise hands. Yes. Is it possible, this question? Okay, how many of you think no? Raise hands. Okay. How many of you say we never know? There can be possibility, we never know. Raise hands. Okay, this is this is so important. This is so important. In fact, I remember one of my friends who lost his mother when he was in his 50s, late 40s. He is very fortunate that he was with his mother for almost more than 40 years. And what he said was that finally, when he lost his mother, then he said that whole life is just so gloomy, meaningless. And he saw his mother cremated. And then because of this, anybody who walks past by him, he told me that he could literally see that person like just a bunch of ash moving. Because he was so badly affected by the pain of having lost mother. So what I'm saying is that, is there something that we can do to get rid of this pain? This pain, in a form, it can take like a stress, then it can be anxiety, then it can be in the form of depression, which are all acutely painful, and particularly there are cases of people who commit suicide. And some people, some who are extremely learned, very educated, highly respected, even they commit suicide. And some people, how come that somebody who's so educated, respected, commits suicide, which means the person does not even control his mind? No, it's a clear indication that anybody who comments like this does not have the understanding of what is depression. Depression is extremely painful mental state. And yes, there's a way by which we can deal with this. And over the next 5 days, meaning the next 4 days, remaining 4 days, we'll just try to touch on these areas. How not to compromise your love and affection because you're near and dear ones. At the same time, how to mitigate the power of the pain when you lose your near and dear ones. This is so important. We must learn this. And how many of you are ready to learn this? Raise your hand. Eager to learn this. Or how many are serious? Okay, good. If you're serious, then we have to know how to tackle the mind. How to tackle the mind. Uh, so let's say that this is so important. When we, let's say that on the, say at the loss of near and dear one, you don't want to, to feel low. But automatically your mind becomes low. How many agree with me? Not only agree with me, also that you had that experience. Raise hand. Yes, many of you. Automatically it becomes so low. And somebody may tell, oh, don't feel low, it's okay. No, it's not okay. I don't want to become low. I don't want to feel low, but it happens. So we should be very realistic when we advise, when we console others. I know it is so difficult, but just try your best, try to distract your mind. You should be more realistic. Don't say don't feel low, it's okay, it happens to everybody. Right? Okay. So how to manage this? This is extremely important point. I'd like to quickly give a just overview of, I say, the three main techniques. How to tackle this, and then these will be explained in great detail from these what is known as the 51 mental factors. But not all. I'll go through the first one. Okay, today I'll just give you an overview of these three methods. Okay, tell me that. Okay, this laptop, and if the flower petals there, flower petals on the plate, yeah. If there is the very strong fan wind, which of the two you think will move? The petals. Why? Raise hands, raise hands, raise hands. It's not grounded. And laptop is also not grounded here. Huh? Huh? That is lighter. Laptop is heavier, therefore it's more grounded. The petals, they're so light, it's not grounded. How many agree with me, raise hands? Okay, good. Now, your mind, when something bad happens to you, right? Your mind doesn't want to move, but it instantly moves like the pedal, right? Some people, they are not affected. Their mind is so calm, controlled. They have the energy to console others and manage everything. For example, the funeral, all these things, the person does it so well. Whereas if you collapse, then who's going to do all these work? Who is going to take care of your family members? Somebody who is able to manage the emotion well, that person can so effectively take care of all the family members when such a tragedy happens. So, that person who's like the laptop, not like the pedal there. Which means that what makes the difference? The mind. It's the same mind. You also have the mind, and the other person also has a mind. The other person's mind is like the laptop, which is grounded, which is heavier. And whereas our mind, which feels so, so low instantly, it's like the pedal. You don't want to become so low, instantly it becomes very low. So how to make the mind, which is so light, like the pedal, to become very heavy, like the laptop? How to make that? This is one technique. If you're able to learn this technique to make your mind more heavy and grounded, that the wind of the agitation cannot move you, then your mind can gain great steadiness, stability, not affected, while your affection, your love and affection expands even more, but you are not affected with agitation and the pain. This is one technique. Number two technique is that, okay, let's say that who is more calm? A young child, say a class 12 child who is graduating, now on the verge to join college, or a professor. When something happens related to your, say, the life challenge, then who is more grounded? Okay, overall speaking, professors. Why? Because the professors, they know so many things. They know so many things. They know how to deal with the situations. They learn all these different ways to deal with the situation. Whereas the young child doesn't know how to tackle the situation when confronted with the situation. So therefore, my mobile, what happens is that if I get a call from somebody who just graduates from class 12, even if I'm in the middle of a conference, if I know that it's from somebody who just graduated from class 12, I'll pick up the phone. Whereas if it is, say, somebody who's graduated BA, BSc, or professor, I'm in the middle, I'm busy, I'll not pick up the phone. Why? Because elders, they know how to tackle the situation. Class 12 graduate who's just coming out will feel so dejected because these children, the option is so less. They don't know. They need your help. And others, elders, they don't really need your help. They are very experienced. They have the various options there. So the point is that when our mind, the knowledge is less. Knowledge is less. The mind can be agitated, or can go into fluctuation very easily. When the knowledge is more, your mind can manage and maintain the stability. This is number 2, the knowledge. And number 3, okay, when you were a very young boy or young girl, when you do something wrong, who is more easily agitated? Something wrong next to your neighbor's place. Your neighbor is agitated or your mom is agitated? Huh? Huh? Okay, meaning that becoming angry, how dare you do that? Your neighbor, yes, neighbor will feel so agitated, right? Neighbor will not feel agitated over his or her own child doing the same thing. Or when somebody else's child does it, he does not have even such a basic mannerism. Your child behave the same way, and you see that, oh, my son is very cute. My son is very active. When somebody else's son does it, and look, the parents, they did not even teach the basic mannerism. So, your mother, why? Your mother does not feel that agitation. While your neighbor's mother feels the agitation towards you. Why? Because of your mother has the love. In the spirit of love, things will not really bother you too much. So, if you can cultivate the love towards other beings, where, what Albert Einstein said, expand the circle of love towards all the creatures. If you can do that, your life will become so beautiful. Your life will become so easy. It is like usually, the example that I give is that these flower petals. If somebody comes and puts the flower petal on the desk like this, if I have affection towards this person, I see this so beautiful. Why should all these petals be on this, on this plate? Why? It's so beautiful. Look outside, it's so aesthetic. Whereas if it is put by somebody who I don't love, who I feel averse to, she even does not know how to put this. They should be in this. So whatever you do will agitate other person. The other person doesn't love you. When the person loves you, everything is music. Everything is a painting. Say, sometimes, I'm sure many of you had that experience. Once I was invited by a lady, a lady doctorate, and she was a program coordinator in a one very reputed institution. For a lunch, and I entered the house. The moment I entered the house, I saw the wall, and the wall was with all these sketches, pencil sketches. And to my eyes, I never saw that. It was little, very uncomfortable. And the lady came and said that, Geshe, this is the painting of my daughters. These are the painting of this small daughter. In my eyes, this is horrible. But in the eyes of the mother, this painting. So when the love is there, your mind is not agitated. Your mind feels the beauty. When love is not there, you don't feel the beauty. Your mind is agitated. Your mind is cultivated. So we see that, broadly speaking, there are these three means by which to manage your emotion. That number one, that generally speaking, how to keep your mind very stable and grounded, like a very heavy laptop or heavy mountain, where the wind cannot move the mountain. This is number one. How to do that? This is number one. Number two is how to build the power of your knowledge. That you have always some options or solutions to the problem. When you have solutions, you are not agitated. When you become agitated, when you don't find the solution. So anger is a sign of weakness. Anger is not a sign of strength. Because with anger, you are agitated. You don't want to be agitated, you are agitated. Which means that the anger is there. So the anger is because you don't see the solution. So where you have the wisdom to see a broad range of solutions, your mind will not be agitated. Your mind is under control. So there's emotional health here. Number three, the most beautiful part is the unconditional love towards other beings. Where the way you feel towards your child, if you can feel towards others, all others, then your mind will not be agitated. Wherever you go, everything is beautiful. This is extremely, extremely a beautiful thing that anybody can do, not only Buddhists, non-believers, Christians, Hindus, Muslims, Jains, Baha'is. Anybody can, even non-believers can do. Boys, girls, young, old, anybody can do. So the things that we need to know how to do this. This is what we need to discuss. Okay. Since the time is up, I'm just wondering if you have one or two questions. From tomorrow, we will leave half an hour for at the end for question answers. But today, if you have one or two questions, I'll be very happy. Raise your hands if you have questions. Or any, it is not necessary that your question that you can expect answer from me. No, it's not necessary. At times, some of the questions, they are so good that it becomes a takeaway for all of us. That even I learn from these questions. So, day-to-day life, real life issues. Okay, you are talking about, in fact, one time, there was like 2 years ago, when I was being invited to give a talk to the Italian group, all online because of COVID. And after the talk, one lady stood up and online, raised her hand and asked me the question. You talked about all this compassion and so forth, but the real life is very different. Real life is very different. That the more you're compassionate, then people take advantage of you. So, how can one realistically deal with these issues? So, like this, any question that you might encounter in your life, I'll be very happy. Any questions? Yes. Okay, this is a good question. This is a good question. The one thing is that please give a thought with this. That, in fact, I asked this question because being a student of psychology, being a student of philosophy, this is so important. What is mind? And maintaining a very open mind, maintaining a very objective approach. I asked this question to my teacher, the same question. In my question, where is the mind? What is this mind like? I asked this question to my teacher. And so keep in mind that there are two things. One is the special dimension, which means in space. East, west, north, south, top, bottom. This is spatial dimension. Another one is temporal dimension. Temporal dimension meaning in time. In time. So a body exists in special dimension. For example, brain is physical body. It has a special dimension in space. It exists. Whereas the mind, because it does not have physicality, it does not have a special dimension. It has a temporal dimension. It exists in time. Now, interestingly, if you want me to take you deeper, may not be the right time for me to speak too much on this, is that your mind and your body, whatever is the causal factor, these two are intertwined. These two are so closely connected at the moment. And it said that the home for this, for example, I live in Delhi. That is my base. With COVID, I was there in Delhi for like whole 2 months, two years. But otherwise, Delhi is my base, but you will not find me in Delhi. Before COVID, you will most likely not find me in Delhi, although Delhi is my base. You will find me always somewhere. Okay. Likewise, the base of the mind is at the heart. The base of the mind is the heart, not the biological heart. Say, at the chest, at the mid, the intersection, at the mid of the chest, just go inside. So there is the ultimate base of the mind. Yes. But as I said earlier, the mind is like me. Oh, where is his base? His base is in Delhi. When you go to Delhi, you will not find me. So likewise, the mind, say when we are in a waking state, our mind makes use of your eye sense, ear sense, nose sense, tongue sense, body sense, and a mental consciousness is always there. When you fall asleep, these 5 senses shut down, and the mind takes the form of the mental consciousness. It will go more towards the base. And then when you wake up, again it becomes busy, travels everywhere. Good. So this is so for this, if you really want to study more, then it's about, what exact mind, and subtle mind and the gross mind. During the waking state, the mind is very gross. And when you fall asleep, it becomes subtler. As it becomes subtler, then it goes towards the base. But when we go unconscious, then it becomes very subtle. Okay, that is a different story. Okay, we'll stop here for today. Yep. Okay. So tomorrow we are going to explain these 3 points on the basis of the 01 mental factors. Not all. I'll go with emphasis on the first set, which is 5 ever-present mental factors. Okay.
As a small token of our love, I request Professor Verekar to present a basket of fruits
Oh,
to
thank
Geshe.
you.